What is going on, everybody? Hopefully you're all doing well tonight. And I want to make sure that we're rock and rolling here. Yeah. Yeah. All good here. Hopefully you're all welcome to Mass Media Mastermind on Wednesday night. Excited to have you all join us. We've got a couple great guests that should be joining us here in just a second. Really excited to have this couple on. They were a guest on my Note Close Show podcast. When I found out what they were doing, I was like, oh, we got to have you on Wednesday night to share the tactics that you're talking about with the rest of our listeners, fellow podcasters, fellow marketers out there as well, to really get the message out. So once again, welcome. Is your first time here. We do record these. They are online at our main YouTube channel at WeCloseNotes.com, or you can always go to our Mass Media Mastermind website too, just for this event. So if you go to massmediamastermind.com, that'll take you here. You can grab my monetization checklist super at the top. It's a free download. Then you can also schedule a quick phone call to go with me to go over it with you guys. If you'd love to join the Mass Media Mastermind, we would love to have you. We got some one-on-one coaching that works well for you. We got some great testimonials from some of our students and friends. And then you can always just scroll down here and see also the different replays. We'll often highlight the upcoming episodes that we have going on, like I have on here tonight. And then you can also click on these buttons down here or the images to be able to watch the replays of our past Wednesday night webinars. We're also getting ready to upload the replays for National Social Media Day that took place last Tuesday on the 12-hour live stream. So 24 episodes are being edited and get ready to upload it here. In the next couple of days, I'll try to get it up by this weekend. We have been bombarded here with a lot of other stuff, but I've gotten people ask me, hey, where do we catch the replays? You can either do it at YouTube by going to WeCloseNotes.tv, or you can come here and kind of check out everything that's going on the Mass Media Mastermind and download the free monetization checklist. So anyway, we are excited to have this couple join us on here. You may recognize them just a little bit. She is a well-known life coach, known as a celebrity coach, helping thousands of people with their speaking and CDs. You might recognize the guy from a little book that's done, called Chicken Soup for the Soul out there. But these two amazing individuals, I am honored to have on tonight. I'm sure many of you guys have read their books, taken their courses, CDs, and they've been an impact not only just to us, but I know to millions of people, not only across the United States, but the world. And so I'm honored to have Dwyer Hansen and Victor Hansen join us tonight here in the Mass Media Mastermind. What's going on, y'all, too? How's it going tonight?
Hey, we're so happy to be here. What a great welcome and greetings, Scott.
It's always fun to be in your show.
You're the best.
Well, I appreciate that. And you guys have been doing an amazing job with your book, Ask. If you guys have not picked a copy of this, you want to. Such an easy, enjoyable read with so many life lessons, but it talks about Ask, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny is the book out there. And you can get it at any major bookstore, download it. I have it delivered directly to your door. I like getting physical copies of books so I can take notes, dog edge the pages, and then also pass it on to friends and families. But, you guys have done such a great job with the marketing of this book. And before we dive in a little bit about the book, you want to talk a little bit, because you've been using podcast guesting as a major staple in help promote this, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We are doing, today we've only done 5, so it's not too many. So we're just, ladies and gentlemen, we want to be in your podcast. If you'd be interested in having us, just go to reception@markvictorhansen.com. But it's been so fascinating. They now call us the king and queen of podcasting. As you know, Scott, our publisher called up and said, hey, COVID shut down the world. The bookstores are all going bankrupt, those few that left, which breaks my heart. I love bookstores.
Right.
We're both book addicts and love them, love reading them, writing them, and sharing them and seeing other authors make it, all of which we want to help. And he said, do you guys want to pull back? And I go, no. I take adversity, turn it into advantage. And that's what this is all about, is ask, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny. Everybody's got a destiny, and it's a great one, but you're going to get sidetracked. And right now we got the biggest yin and yang. We got the biggest crisis equals the biggest opportunity. And we're making this into an opportunity, and everyone says, well, you're selling more books than anybody. What are you guys doing? Are you cheating? We're not cheating. We're just working. We're on a podcast. We're doing something nobody's doing.
Well, work is a 4-letter word to a lot of people out there, right? They don't want to put that.
Not work, anything.
What? You mean I just can't write the book and I'm going to make millions off it without having to do any work? Crystal, what's your thought on most people's failures that way, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you write the book, once you write the book, the fun starts, right? You really have to get the word out. But, I believe there's never been a better time to write a book because you can reach your audience directly. And podcasting is fantastic because you're reaching audiences that are sort of already groomed and just like super attentive, and super engaged. So we have loved talking to all of these, different groups, different podcasts, all different themes. And it just kind of works out. What we're sharing with them, this message is so universal because we all need to learn to be better askers. It is completely transformational.
Yeah, let's talk about the message because it is such I read the book, loved the book before I had you guys on. I didn't get through it all, but I've gotten through it since then. But it is I think a lot of people struggle with the ask. I think we come, especially when people are brand new to a situation or they're struggling, as you're talking about the fable throughout everything, we get intimidated by asking for help or asking for people to help us with the solutions. And honestly, that's the easiest way to get to a faster spot is not being afraid of the ask, right?
Exactly. And we say, we break it down in 3 parts. We say there are 3 channels through which to ask, and that is ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And each of those, believe it or not, is equally important. It's not just about asking other people for things. It's like the ask yourself part really comes first because that is the reflective journey. So many of us get, just moving on in our lives and things aren't working out, but it's sort of like we're hurtling through space and we can't figure out what went wrong, and why we're not getting the results or why we're not enjoying our lives, But so that reflective journey, asking yourself really starts to help you find those answers and start to sculpt your life in a completely different way, in a way where you're going to get a lot more happiness and success if you're willing to take the time and ask the right questions and then really, act on the answers.
I got a question for you, Mark. How long did it take you two to put the book together? When did you start writing Ask?
Boy, that's a good
when was it? It took us about
well, let me tell you, while she's picking that up, let me answer the question that it's got to be almost 2 years ago because what happened is it was Christmas time. We're in Hawaii. And our little grandson is 6 years old, and we got 6 grandkids. But this guy, all of them are precocious, but this guy is stellar. And for Christmas, he got a little Dick Tracy watch, which you and I call a gizmo watch. Yeah. He's only allowed 4 people to call: the grandparents and his parents. So we're in Hawaii on vacation. All of a sudden, my phone comes up and it says Everett, our grandson, and other than my grandson, if you call, I'll answer. But other than that, probably not. You're not.
He does answer my phone. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
right. Right. I always answer your phone. Who's that again? Everett. And I said, Everett, it's Grampy. What is it? He says, Grampy, you know those books you write? I said, yeah.
Chicken soup.
I said, the Chicken Soup for the Soul. He says, yeah, that's it. I love your books. He said, are you and Mimi? She goes by Mimi. Are you and Mimi writing any more books? I said, yeah. I said, where are you? He said, I'm in the closet. I said, why? He said, I don't want Mom and Dad to know what I'm asking you. I said, okay, you can ask Everett. Everett, you can ask Grampy and Mimi anything. We're here for you for the rest of your life, no matter what. He says, and he starts to whisper, and he says, can I write a book with you? And I go, can you write a book with us? Which is what we're saying, Scott, is every kid is born with CQ, curiosity quotient. It's unlimited. They want to know when, where, how, why, Dad, Mom, Grampy, whatever. And can I do that? And our thing is that all of us are born with infinitely more talent, ability, and inner genius than most of us ever think. And one of the things we're writing to now is that, this multiplicity of talents that Harvard, Dr. Gardner's teaching at Harvard, right? Everybody thinks they got one talent. I am a podcaster. No. You can do a hell of a lot more than that, brother.
Uh-huh. That's the truth. Well, the reason I asked that is I honestly think, and divine intervention, I think, has got something to do with it. Obviously, you're like, hey, I hope the book is a bestseller. It's always a little prayer to ask God of things. But when you think about what has happened and is going on with everything in the country right now and globally, this really comes into play so much more so as people are pivoting, looking for, hey, I need some help. What should I do? Who do I need to talk to? People being laid off, looking for work, people struggling. And so I think that's the thing is a lot of our dreams, people have put those on the back burner or shattered. And I think that's why it's such a powerful book. And I don't know what you think about that, but I know that you guys both have a very strong faith in our conversations. And I agree with that too, that sometimes there's a bigger guy out there who's got a bigger plan for than what you and I all have.
Oh boy, that is so true, Scott. We 100% believe that. I think you know. And yeah, it took us about a year, I would say, to write the book. And then, you know, it was due to launch on April 28th, right smack dab in the center of the pandemic. So we're hearing about all these books getting canceled or, you know, postponed. And we had a meeting, our publisher called a meeting with us, and we're kind of like, should we delay this? Should we stop it? Should we put it off till the fall or next year? And we all decided together, you know, and our publisher was really behind it too. He's like, no, I agree with you guys. I think this horse has left the gate. Let's go for it. Maybe there's a reason we need to do this. And we all kind of, you know, he's a spiritual guy too. He's Anthony, he's a great guy. But we did it, and as it turns out, it has given people so much strength because, like you said, we're all at home now. We've had to sit back and kind of go inside ourselves a little bit more than we ever probably thought we would. We have this time. So what better time to start to reinvent yourself? And the tool of asking is critical. It's crucial to reinventing yourself because you have to start on that introspective journey. The first part, the ask yourself part, is the first channel, is that introspective journey. Because if you don't spend that time with yourself, asking, first of all, there are like 3 major questions that come under that section. And it's like, where am I now? Because we don't often ask those things of ourselves. Like, am I happy with this? Where am I right at this point in my life? Do I like what's happening? Do I like the way I'm feeling? Is everything the way it should be? Okay. All the little sub questions that come under where am I right now? And then the second, major critical phase question is, where do I want to be? Right? Where do I want to be? This is where I am now. Where do I want to be? And all the little questions that would just help you distinguish that underneath that. And then really importantly, what specific action am I going to need to take to get there? And so this asking journey is so important, more now than ever. It always has been important. It's been important in our lives forever and ever. It's how we've reinvented ourselves through our own personal crises, everything that's happened, difficulties, pain, whatever. And how most people who end up having success and happiness usually are pretty good askers. They're what we call master askers.
That's good. You said that clearly versus master asses,
Well, we got one of the stories we have in with Rita Davenport, and she says, get your ask together.
Get your ask in gear.
Yeah,
get your ask in gear. I love that. That's good stuff.
And so what, you're such a joy to do this with. But what you said is that everybody's got to wake up and maybe reinvent, repivot, redecide, because the opportunities are bigger than ever. And yes, we'll just pick on the airlines because everyone knows what has happened. 2/3 of the management got fired. 2/3 of the pilots have been compressed. You can't go get a pilot job because there's none to be had. 2/3 of the flight attendants. Therefore, it's back to the questions that Crystal just asked. What are you asking yourself? What do you want in your heart of hearts? So as a triangle is, what are you best at? And have 10 of your friends write out, Scott is best at this. They'll tell you stuff you can't even see because it's hidden in plain sight because it's obvious to them, but not you. And then number 2 is that what do you really want to do? And then number 3 is what will you get paid substantially for? Because the whole you're not, one person's not locked down. There's 8 billion of us simultaneously government-imposed lockdown, which I don't agree with now at all.
Yeah, we could go talk hours about that. I think a lot of us are on the same page. That we're a little fed up with everything that's going on. But you're right about the thing of asking your friends, your top, 8, 10 people that you trust and like the most, and they're going to come from a place of love, and honestly tell you the skills that you don't know. It's one of the things that helped me earlier on in life is people telling me, hey, you're better at this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go that route and be that route. But it's also too, I think a lot of people get worried about the how versus the who. When they're making a pivot. How am I going to make money? How am I going to do this? When it needs to be like, okay, just talk to the people, ask people around you, and they'll point you in the right direction or the right people to get beyond that wall that we have a lot of times, right?
Right. And that's the second channel, like ask others. It's so important because we are one another's greatest resources. And the funny thing is people are so hesitant to ask. They're scared to ask. We talk about this in the book. We call it the 7 roadblocks to asking. And every one of us has at least one or more of those roadblocks. But the funny thing is in the research we did for the book, people going into these studies that have been done on asking, most of them felt like if they asked people for something, they would appear to be pushy or obnoxious or annoying, you know. And also that, or if they were just asking for advice or information, they might appear to be stupid, uninformed, ignorant, right? But the reality is completely different than what we think going into it. The reality is people are 80% more likely to grant your request or help you with something, advice, whatever, if you're just willing to ask. That's a really high percentage of success. So, you know, why not just do it? We have to get over it. And that's why we say we need to look at these 7 roadblocks that we have some great stories around those. And just by, you know, listening to other people's stories are so wonderful because they become metaphors for our own lives. And metaphors are like patterns in our brain. Our brain thinks in patterns. So that's the way we can quickly learn something without, you know, having to go through it ourselves sometimes.
That makes a lot of sense. I got a question online here. They asked the question. So if you have a book launch and you're having different appearances for the book launch across the country, and you compare that, the attendance ratio to something like that for a book signing, would you say you get more people listening in on podcasts versus that would show up in live in person to a book signing for an hour or two?
I love the question. So whomever asked it, thank you. When I started looking at podcasts, remember, I didn't even know what a podcast was 6 months ago. And now we've sort of mastered the field with you and a few of our new friends.
Yes, Your Highness. Yes, Your Royalty, king of the podcast now.
And don't you forget it. You want to kiss the ring now?
Later on, when we can travel, we'll do that.
Well,
sorry to interrupt.
So here's what happens. The first time I'm looking at how to do a podcast and who does them and how it works, I saw a picture and said, here's an audience with 1,000 people. Now I've had tens of thousands at one time, 38,000 at one time. So I know what an audience looks like. And it said, when you're on a podcast, even a little podcast, you probably have bigger than anything else you could talk to. So that's number one. Number two, there's 1 million podcasts in America. So there's a niche that everyone else can grow rich in. And I wrote that book once with the world's greatest marketer, Jay Abraham, one of my 309 books. The point is it now, the other thing that's happening here is that you don't have to go there. When I started speaking, Wayne Dyer was out hustling his book, and I used to carry in books with Wayne, write erroneous zones, because people said erogenous zones, and everybody wanted to read it and find out what one of those was, right? And Wayne and I were great friends forever, Dr. Dyer. So the point is, he used to have to literally go radio station. He carried books in the trunk and gave them to the bookstore. Well, today, there aren't any bookstores, unfortunately, because they can't afford to pay the rent anymore, and they're collapsing. It breaks my heart because I said I love bookstores. So podcasts are the way to do it. And you can either sell it through, in our case, it's Amazon, and you go up the Amazon list to number 1, that's great. And then it just is a perfect place. And there shouldn't do one podcast, because remember, I said it's the quantity of service plus the quality of service with a positive mental attitude that equals unlimited compensation. So we're doing 4 or 5 podcasts a day. Our goal is to talk to 100 million people between now and December 25th, because most books are sold between now and Christmas. We expect to sell 1 million books between now and then. No one's ever done it because no one's ever tried to do podcasting the way we're doing it. In my mind, it's a done deal because we're both articulate and we're now starting to divide and conquer. She can do it alone. At first she was going, am I going to be strong at this? And more of you are isn't she just magnificent?
Well,
Wait, she's great, and that's the second. Wait a second. Come on, life coach. Come on, right? But I pick at you a little bit there because there's a lot of people that feel way about guesting. Oh, I got to be perfect, or I don't know if I'm going to be any good at it, right?
My hair
right.
is
Well,
not
what's
right.
funny is I've done a lot of speaking on stage, but the first time I did a podcast, it's just a different, format. It's different. I wasn't really scared. That's a little exaggeration, but I just wasn't, didn't know what to expect. But you know what? I love it now. It's so fun. And it's our new normal, being on podcasts all day long. It's very dynamic and flowy, and you get so many different personalities and tones and tenors for shows. So it makes it kind of interesting. Honestly, our lockdown hasn't been that bad because we both each have our office in our house anyway. So we're used to working at home. We have a big home. And so we like that. And, you know, we're talking to people all day long. So we're fortunate in that respect.
Yeah, that's really good. Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, the bottom line to answer that person's question, and we can go to the next question, is you're going to be able to get to more places faster. Before COVID happened, our publisher wanted us to do the 20, there are 20 bookstores that used to say to New York Times, this is it. And when I was selling more books than anybody else in New York Times, over 20,000 a week, the lady at New York Times would not put us on. You'll love this story, Scott. And so I called her up and I said, look, I'm selling more books than anybody. She said, she was very demeaning to me. And she was Harvard. And I said, Dr. Canfield, my partner, graduated third in his class at Harvard. So I got Harvard down. And I'm not intimidated by Harvard. My teacher in grad school was Buckminster Fuller. He had 15 doctorates at Harvard. But she says, you, sir, are a multi-authored book. Like I should be ashamed of it. And I said, you're sure you don't do multi-authored books? She said, sir, we at New York Times do not do multi-authored books. I said, you're positive? She said, I'm positive. I said, lady, you do the Bible. It's got 66 books. We count maps. We got a whole lot more authors. And she said, boy, you're in next week. And she came down the phone.
Oh, what a great story.
Yeah, so everybody's going to get rejected. Everyone's going to get, and the goal of being a good writer is to outthink the marketplace and go over, under, around, or through every obstacle, because they're going to exist for everybody, whether it's myself or Mrs. Harry Potter or anything.
Now, one of the things I think you've done really good too is you have applied the principles in this book on a regular basis by asking people for referrals. Hey, do you know somebody that we could also be a guest on? And I think a lot of podcasters really fall down on that. I mean, they're used to the swaps, but I think a lot of people are afraid to ask or don't do that, don't find out ways to kind of get the word out what they're doing. What's been your business model, or what's been your podcasting model? Yeah, you probably set a little bit of stuff up on the front. Okay, we want to be on so many to begin with, but then how many people have reciprocated with referrals for you?
Well, by the way, the person we're talking to has been a superstar for us, and we said, hey, look, we want to go on 100+ podcasts between now and December 25th, and we will work around the clock. And by the way, some people would say, you don't really get up, but we're up way before dawn this morning, and we've been on a podcast in Vietnam as late as 10 p.m. at night, because it's different 12 hours. And I thought, in Vietnam, we're not going to do anything great. And there are 10 million people listening, not from Vietnam, where we've been twice and paid a lot, but from literally around the world. The next day, one of my friends calls up, and it's a FaceTime, and he's really important. So he says, you got to take this call. I said, I'm working. He said, no, you got to take this call. This guy heard you in Vietnam. He's in London right now. And he owns all the magazines on all the airplanes, all the magazines on all the cruise ships, and they're not allowed to go in with magazines. And I told him that you have the best ideas ever. And would you talk to the guy's name, Simon? And I said, Simon, how are you? He said, could you call me right back on WhatsApp? And I said, yeah, I got WhatsApp. So we called back. And he said, look, they won't let me go on. And Ken, your buddy, and my buddy says, you got an answer. And I immediately, my mind's going fast, because remember, you're here to go over, under, around, or through and get to the other side. With the gold is on the other side. So I said, no problem. Scott's getting on my airplane. I'm American Airlines. I said, Scott, the way you get on the airplane, you got to take the American Ways magazine, which he runs. I said, Scott, would you mind? It's in your phone. If you ever don't want it, you got to click it out. But otherwise, getting on the airplane, it's mandated that you get our magazine. Well, Simon said, what do you want? I said, I want my stories in every magazine, everywhere. And that'll be 100 million. Ladies and gentlemen, there are going to be new ways to market. What did we say? We're going to have to repivot, reinvent, reorient. We're going to have to go in a new direction.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth. That's a phenomenal story about how to pivot around something when you can't put anything on there, how to be, everything is digital these days. Chris, have you seen a lot of that too with your life coaching and working with people all across the country, going more like this virtual aspect of thing as well, working with people?
Oh yeah. I mean, we've had to go all virtual for coaching. And you know what? I think people are actually really surprised that it's very effective. I mean, Zoom, has made this so possible, and people are actually liking it even better sometimes. I have one guy who's a coach who said he's been doing it for a while, and he said it's almost weird now if I see someone in person, it just, because he's been doing it for so long, but it's very effective. So, and we all just, it seems like we've all gotten busier, in the past, whatever, decade or 5 years, whatever. I don't know when we all got so busy, but right. I think part of it is we're all trying to accomplish so much in such a short period of time. Life moves faster. So having the ability to do coaching online has been phenomenal. I mean, you can reach someone, you can do, you know, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I could do a session. I mean, whatever, it's, you know, a closed eye session, whatever people need. It's the way we can reach each other right now when we can't actually physically get together. And that is so important, that human connection. There's a section in our book that's called Too Isolated to Ask. And it's very sad when people feel isolated, you know, and aren't connecting at a real level. You know, we're superficially connecting on social media, but like really connecting. I mean, this is a real connection. We're here, we're having a real conversation, we're laughing together. It's the next best thing to being here together, right, Scott?
Yeah, I'd agree to that. I you know, especially it's difficult when you don't get the pheromones or the touch. The touch is such an important thing, especially if it's one of your love languages or whatever.
Yeah.
I know Steph, my spouse, went to our store we got Chinese or Asian from, and she got a hug from the owner that loves us, and she's like, it just made her day. And I'm like, yeah, it's the little things that do, right? You need that connection.
Well, you need 15 hugs
so
a day, and that's why the days we're almost the happiest, other than when we're podcasting, is when our grandkids come over, because they are so tactile and they don't know any of the problem. And you know, we swim together, we play together. I'll just do the last thing.
They're hanging on you, they're jumping in your lap, and it's just like, oh.
We have a sleepover
wonderful.
at least once a month with all the grandkids, and they think, other than trying to see if they can dunk grandpa in the swimming pool, they think having a pillow fight with me is the most wonderful thing. And if you ask them who won, they always tell me, we got grandpa, don't worry.
We beat him.
That's awesome. Now, one of the great things, and I kind of want to go back a little bit to this, with you guys doing 4 to 5 podcasts a day, how are you keeping track of that? How are you scheduling that? What kind of tools for those that are out there that are listening or watching that? Some of the things that you guys are using to make it simplified for you guys.
So what's really great now, so we have helpers that watch our calendars and stuff like that. But, and we decided that we both can't be involved in that. So Mark has taken on the, like, clearing it with him. Because if we both tried to do it, it was all getting mixed up. I'm saying this, we're available, we're not available. So one of us has to be the final clearing. And it makes it so easy now, because most people have the links. A lot of people are just, they send you the link, pick a date, boom. You know, so you can get those tools now that make it so easy. And I would just say, if you have multiple people at your office or in your operation, make sure you leave like one person really finally in charge of that decision. And it works pretty well.
Yeah, and we are willing to do it, and we're willing to work, and yet we still exercise every day. We eat really well, and our immune systems are strong, because you've got to be strong through this thing, and you can't miss out on what you got to do to take good care of yourself. And we do. And we also have our spiritual practice where we wake up an hour in the morning and pray and meditate together. So every day. Yeah.
Because that sets our tone. That's the time of day where we do our reflective question, like, you know, where are we now? What's working? You know, what are we producing? What's happening? How are we feeling about everything? What do we want to be doing? You know, we follow the process, and it is so magical.
And let me go back to a question you asked a second ago, Scott, and that was, ladies and gentlemen listening, do not be afraid to ask everybody you talk to, who can you introduce me to that's also in the podcasting world? I was just dealing right before this call with a guy I was introduced to by another podcast. If you haven't been on Daniel Puder's show, you know Daniel Puder, the top MMA wrestler in the world, the MMA, he's undefeated world champion. So maybe he weighs 340 pounds, but he's got 4% body fat. So you want him on our team. You don't want to fight him.
Anyhow, run into a tank.
Yeah, he calls me up and says, hey, look, you got to meet this guy who's about to become head of DOD. Yeah. And I get on the phone with this guy, and we just had an hour telephone call. And he said, well, tell me what you want. I told him what I wanted in energy. We own an energy company, but I said, and he's helping us with that. But I said, I want to do podcasts. He says, well, you know, my best friend sells those pillows on this little TV show at night. And would you like to be on a show with 20 million? And I went, yeah. No. Right. By the way, there's no way I could know that a guy that's about to go into a very central, important place in government. I mean, we just really hit it off. We just synchronized because of Daniel's his best friend and one of mine. So this guy became my best friend, and he said, yeah, I'll call him tomorrow. there's no way I could know that.
And so if you don't ask, you will never know. There are so many surprises that come from asking. And even when you, let me give you a quick story, because this is in the book, and I think this is a great example of that, Scott. So Lynn Marquis was this gal that came out of college and knew she wanted to go into the nonprofit space, right? She just loved that kind of work. So she decided to put together this summer camp for disadvantaged children because, you know, their parents can't afford it. They don't know what to do with their kids during the summer. So she was really excited about it because it was a very rich camp, included a lot of things in a good length of time. So she finally got someone referred her to the richest woman in town who actually controlled a large family trust. Well, she was so nervous the day she showed up in this woman's office. She goes, I was literally shaking like a leaf, visibly. I couldn't hide it. So I had to just come clean and say, you know, I'm so sorry. I'm just so honored to meet with you, but I'm nervous right now. It's just because I'm so honored to be here. And the woman was very kind, of course. She said, oh, no problem, sit down, tell me what you have. So they started talking. She explained the camp, how wonderful, how much it would help the kids. And she said, but it's very expensive. And she goes, the woman asked her, well, how much are you asking for? And she goes, again, she got so scared. She goes, I literally stuttered. I go, $5,000. That's how much it costs to put a kid through. And the woman said, okay, but how many children do you want to have at the camp? And she said something like 285. And the woman said, okay, I'd like to underwrite all of the children. Wow. And she was just jaw dropped, like no way in the world could she have anticipated that or known it, because she was so scared to ask in the first place. But she's like, the woman said, how much is that? She goes, I don't even know. Do you have a calculator? But it's just, the point of it is, we never know if we're just willing to ask. And sometimes you're going to be scared. You're going to feel scared. Sometimes we're just saying you need to learn to step on your fear with courage. Just step on it, ask anyway, because that answer might be so far above and beyond what you ever could have dreamed of or expected, right? So just ask. That's the point.
Yeah. And I want to give everybody listening anywhere in the world permission to ask. If you don't believe you can ask, all you got to believe is that Crystal, Scott, and Mark totally reinforce you. And if you need that little boost, say, I know you know who Mark Victor Hansen and Scott Carson and Crystal Hansen are. So what I want to do is the three of them told me to call you. Well, most people go,
there you go.
Oh, yeah. I must know Mark and Scott and Crystal. I don't know who they are, but I must know them.
We're telling you to call them right now.
Yeah.
But that's a great thing. They ask, but then picking up the phone and making that final phone call. I know when Mark and I were talking back and forth, I refer Mark, you call him immediately or drop an email out relatively quickly. Same way here, you send it back. I talked with Bill Barnett the other day, an old friend I hadn't talked to in probably 5 or 6 years from Dallas, Texas. Referrals like, oh, I need to give Bill a phone call. It was like, you never know who you're connected to in this digital society today. We're so much closer than we ever were just 10 years ago too, right? And it's gotten so much easier to build those connections to see, especially social media, who's connected to who's been on whose podcast, and who can ask for the introduction. So I got another question here from online. Have all of your the 5 that you're doing today, are those all warm leads, or are you using any type of tools or prospecting on kind of cold leads for podcast interviews?
I'm doing a lot of cold. I don't know most of these people. Now, the blessing of having sold 500 million books is that a lot of them have read me, and they said, oh, I read everything you've written. And I go, I wrote 309 books. I go, oh, I guess I didn't read everything you wrote.
Well, and honestly, we do have a publicist for our book. So she's generating some, and those are kicking off more, but we're getting a lot on our own too. We're kind of doing both. We're just taking it, we're just really good at asking. We're not afraid to ask anybody who knows anybody.
Yeah, so nobody misses what Crystal was saying earlier. It is in my camp to call. Like, you've given me several people, and I've called every one of them, and we've gotten on every one of the shows, and then I ask. But I am decided to be fearless as an asker, and I'm asking everybody out there to just pretend you're fearless, and pretty soon you'll be fearless. Yeah. And the other thing is, one of the stories in Ask that we love is Peter Guber, who obviously the world's biggest movie maker, only 50 Academy Awards for Rocky and Batman and Rain Man and Peter O'Toole and Lorenzo of Arabia, and he owns a little sports team or two called the Dodgers and Golden State Warriors. He's only 80 years old, looks 40, and is a great dear friend. But Peter says, I'm not dyslexic, but he said, Mark, you are so dyslexic, you think when people tell you no, it means on.
It's true.
Well, it means I've always been told no means not now, more so than anything else. And with 80% of sales coming after the 5th contact, you got to get 5 no's to get that final yes or get in that spot to make things happen. So, because I know there's a couple exchanges that you copied me on. I was like, wait a second, why are you being that way? You just said 9 or no. I'm like, you know who you're talking to is what I'm thinking. And they're like, okay, it's booked later. I'm like, oh, come on now. We won't talk about those people, but I just kind of crack up at sometimes people. They're like, no, and I'm like, why? It'd be ideal fit. Oh, wait, yeah, it would be. Sometimes we just need that little bit of references or warm introductions or warm emails and going from there, right, everybody?
Yeah, and back to what you said about some of the trade outs, like I'll just do one guy. I think you had or a lady who had on a show, Mitzi Purdue. Did you have Mitzi on yet?
Not yet. We are talking actually, I think next week actually. So
okay, good. Well, Mitzi is, only 22 million chickens a week. So, she is like super substantial. This is not like a little weight. This is a big, heavy weight. But she graduated Harvard 1953. I mean, head of her class. And she's if you know the term mensch, she's got together, she got together, and her love and life clicks. But she sounds like a 20 or 30-year-old. She's just got the energy and the joy and the exuberance. And she is desperate to help make the world work. So we did another little book together called How to Be Up and Down Times, because we thought everybody ought to, figure out how to be up and down times.
It's a giveaway book. It's on Mark's website just because we wanted to make that a resource for everybody. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll make sure to put that in the chat room.
VictorHansen.com. Yeah. Next question. Go ahead.
No, I was just simply saying that's awesome. How to Be Up in a Down Time is definitely a good title for something right now with everything going on. Sorry, was that Mark?
It is just rocking away too. So
what's with everything changing right now, and you guys doing such a great job pivoting and seeing everything, you're going to hit your goal. I guarantee you're going to hit your goal. Have you been tracking the numbers and pacing and kind of seeing things? And then what's your publicist saying? Yeah. Well, that's good. So that's the thing I want to kind of get into. You guys took some time. You're putting stuff to, and you were also working on another book project too, aren't you, Mark? Something like that. Another multiple chapter book.
We did a book called "You Have a Book in You" virtual course, because we want every one of these podcasters to write their own book. And if they go to my website, markvictorhansen.com, we got a video that tells you how to do it. But everyone's got to write a book. But what Crystal said to you a second ago, when you write it, you're only 10% done. The 90%, which no publisher teaches you, is the relentless, ceaseless, lovable marketing and selling and self-promotion. And that's why you got to be insistent, consistent, and persistent, because I used to do, when I interviewed, when Jack and I started, I interviewed the 101 best-selling fiction and nonfiction authors, everybody from Scott Peck on the nonfiction side to James Mitchell on the fiction side, and all of them were great. But I didn't ask how to write. I know how to write. I said, how did you market? And I wrote a wow of a business plan. And when the publishers looked at it, they go, nobody's going to sell $1.5 million in a year and a half. Everybody comes in there and say they're going to be the best-selling author. Get out of here. And I said, it's okay. Next. Because NEXT is a nice, clean letter, 4-letter word. And then a lot of them came up to me and said, boy, I wish I hadn't gotten rid of you.
Oh yeah, like I really wanted to publish your book, Mark. It was somebody else in my office. Monday morning quarterbacks, they were like, really, I wish we would have done it. I was the one who wanted it.
Yeah, the other person in the office in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
They look a lot like you.
One of the great things I love what you said about that is that majority of it, 90% is in the marketing. It's in the self-promotion. It's sharing the message that you have. And I think that podcasting is one of the last aspects of truly free speech out there,
And free enterprise.
Thank God. I just want to say thank God it exists, especially in today's world, because unfortunately, no matter what side you're on, our media is getting censored tremendously. Whether we get it or not, it's.
So what happens is I'm saying that podcasting, now that I've learned so much, we're in equivalently the 1950s, where the front end of ABC, CBS, and NBC started, and podcasting is going to grow up. And that's why you see all the money coming out of Facebook into podcasting. That's why you see Joe Rogan get $100 million from Spotify. That's why you see, and that, by the way, a lot of podcasters that are listening on this now are going, well, it's easy for Joe because he's a comedian, or whatever excuse they use.
It's never easy.
It's never easy. and the point is, you've got to be 3 things that we teach in the Hansen family of companies in my book. You got to be unique, and you're unique. We're unique. Number 2, you got to be transformational. I say the caterpillar, you could look at a caterpillar, you can never predict it's going to become a high-flying, beautiful, effervescent butterfly. And number 3, it's got to be inevitable. Like you said, it's inevitable we'll sell the books. Why? Because we're doing everything that it takes to do it, and we're seeing new markets that you couldn't see yesterday.
Yeah, that's the thing when you talk about all the money going into it. With Sirius just buying the Stitcher app recently, obviously Joe taking, getting a $100 million contract over 3 years. But people don't realize all the hard work that Joe has done over the last 20 years,
Right.
going from the mixed martial arts and trying to be a comedian. I actually saw him 15 years ago do stand up on New Year's Eve here in Austin, Texas.
You
And
did?
you think about, yeah, he was high as a kite, wearing this pink flamboyant shirt, talking about how he was high as a kite. It was the most rambling thing with Joe, but it was still hilarious. But if you think about how the hard work he's put, he's 1,000+ episodes, showing up on a regular basis, asking the questions that people others are afraid about, and him just being himself, not trying to be anybody else. I think that's one of the biggest keys. That, yeah, Joe's great. I don't always listen to his show. Sometimes I got to fast forward through 30 minutes of ads, but he's earned the right with all the time that he's put in to be his own animal. And that's a beautiful thing. It's good for everybody. You're right, Mark. I believe we are very small in the infancy stage. There may be 1 million+ podcasts, but there's probably less than a third of that generating content out there. And I'm sure you guys are going to end up being on all 300,000 of those here before too long at 5 a day.
We're excited.
Yeah. So, I think that one of the biggest things that you mentioned, I want to come back to this before we kind of let you guys get back to your evening. You talk about how you guys spend an hour each day in the morning, getting centered, reading, getting focused, identifying the opportunities, but also really kind of seeing, okay, what are we tackling today? And being proactive versus whereas so many people are reactive. They check out their email, they let the world kind of dictate their message. You guys don't do that. You are proactive, and you guys dictate your actions throughout the day, the month, and the year. So many people struggle with that. Any tips that you'd like to give to anybody that's listening to that is struggling to get things done or trying to stay focused in a chaotic times?
Right. You need to completely remind yourself every day that your life experience is created from the inside out. While it seems like, life is coming at you and you're kind of ducking and dodging and just trying to keep up with it, that's not the reality. The experience of your life, what you will experience in this lifetime, will be created from the inside out. So if you just keep letting all of this noise in, that you're literally programming yourself pretty much the opposite of the way you want to be programmed. Because a lot of what we're seeing on the news and all the stuff that's going on social media, it's like a big fight and a lot of negativity. So you're programming yourself with negativity. You're programming yourself to feel bad, to feel down, to feel hopeless. And until you say enough, I'm not going to focus on those things. I'm going to take charge, and I'm going to start creating my life where it is created inside of my own mind, and start to imagine. First of all, use your imagination. We talk about this in the book, the 3 ways to prepare to be a good asker. It's belief, action, and visualization. And you have to believe that you're going to have your answers that you're looking for and that you deserve them. You have to be willing to take action around those answers that you're getting. And then visualization, you need to create the template for what it is you really want through these questions, and then really use the power of your imagination just to say, if I had exactly what I wanted right now, what does that look like? What would I be doing? Who would I be talking to? How would I spend my time? What things would I be, contributing to? All of these things. How would I be feeling? And that really helps you get so much more clarity about, what you really want your life to look like.
Right. And then I think that is definitely sharing that too out there with your audience and the people that you're the closest to, so that you can have that momentum and those connections, really kind of help you take it to things. Some of the best connections I've ever made have come from just simply saying what I was looking for, and getting the word out, my goals, and things often happen a lot easier when you got momentum working for you, right?
Yeah, you got to take your vision and put it into action every time.
Good stuff there. The question, somebody else asked in line. So if you've been on all these other podcasts, when are you guys going to start your own?
Good question. Really good question.
We're assuming that it'll be this fall.
Yeah.
And we want to call it Ask the Askers, because we believe that we got some connections that nobody else could get to. I mean, we introduce anybody to you, as you know, we've been doing that. But we think that look, out of the podcast, the average American a year ago didn't listen, and now they're listening to 7.5 hours a week of podcasts. And just like YouTube is taking over television, podcasting is taking over people's thinking at levels they didn't know, and they're finding people that are like-minded, that they trust, respect, admire, and they want to grow and go with. And let me just go there for a second. What we want everyone to do with our book Ask is this: get a copy on Amazon, and it'll be mailed to you, like you said a minute ago, Amazon.com. But then I want you to think it through. Who are 10 people I know that are depressed, despondent, disconsolate, and maybe even suicidal, because suicide's going crazy, and buy a book for them and electronically send it to them, or send a hard copy, whatever winds your clock, but get it to them fast, because these people need to re-sculpt themselves, re-pivot, reinvent themselves, and have a new shot at a bigger game, because the media is so, like Crystal was saying, so blatantly negative.
Yeah, they definitely are. And it's everybody goes through a tough time. Everybody definitely goes through a tough time. And when I was going through a tough time over a decade ago, is one of your tape series back in the day, Mark, that actually helped me get through it. And I heard you on an interview talk about, I don't remember which one it was, but I remember you talking to somebody about that you were going through a really tough time when you recorded that tape series. Yeah. And it helped you kind of go through it and helped identify. You could hear that on the series there for you. And I think that's the thing about podcasting, is kind of that replace the CDs and the DVDs that we used to shove in our cars to make our cars into an educational thing. It now turns our ears into an educational thing with our commutes or workouts.
How to think bigger than you ever thought you could think. Was that it?
That's it. That is it right there. Yes.
By the way, we want everyone to go to askthebookclub.com and come that. That'll be free, and you get in August with Crystal and I to ask us anything you want, and we'll have a great meeting. But let me just tell you one thing that happened with this How to Think Bigger Than You Ever Thought You Could Think, which is still available and selling like crazy, which is amazing.
They republished it. Yeah.
When we're falling in love, we're doing a meeting, and everybody is in the place, is a suit and a tie. Guy comes in with wall-to-wall tattoos, which at the time I wasn't offended, but I thought, the boy has arrived at the wrong meeting. Hell's Angels is down the hall. And the guy says, and he's carrying a set of my tapes that he shows. Cute. I get goosebumps. And he's the guy who created Tap Out Close. And after I met him it was a 3-hour meeting, we met him in the middle. Wonderful, joyous guy, made $200 million. He said, I'm totally illiterate. I can't read a word, but I listened to your tapes over 200 times. I now made over 200 million. And I listened back and forth from Orange County, where I live, up to LA every day in my van while I was building Tap Out Clothing. And you're responsible. The audience they wouldn't stop applauding this guy, because it shows there's nothing that should stop you right now. What we're trying to do with Ask is make yourself unstoppable. Think the right thoughts. Listen to the best stuff. Decide that you're going to do self-determination, initiative, and action, and go get the results you want. And don't let the economy get you. Don't let COVID get you. Don't let your mother, your father, your brother, your uncle, the government, or anyone else get in your way. It's up to you and you alone to decide.
I love it. I love it. I love it. What's again the website that people need to go to again? Mark there for everyone.
Yeah, markvictorhansen.com. MarkVictorHansen. It's Danish.com. Markvictorhansen.com.
Well, for the book club though, when you buy the book and you want to come to the book club, go to askthebookclub.com, and that'll get you in. Yeah, you'll get an invitation after you go in there. Yeah.
Great stuff, you guys. So excited. You guys are just kicking butt and taking names, and it's just great. Just absolutely a highlight of the last 90 days has been getting to know you guys and hanging out with you guys on a variety of basis. So I love your success, and I'll keep sending people your guys' way, because, and we want to put that out there, open invite. If you're interested in having Mark or Crystal or both on your podcast, reach out to me, drop me a message, or you can email your publicist at Mark Victor Hansen.
Reception at markvictorhansen.com.
And see about getting them on there. They'd love to be on there, love to share their message. And if you know anybody that would draw strength, draw peace, but also draw some inspiration, then go out and buy a copy of Ask Everybody, and then feel free to give it away. Powerful book out there. So Thank you two so much for coming on the Mass Media Mastermind series here for everybody out there. You guys are doing a great job. And we'll see you guys all later. All righty.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Mark. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Go out, take some action, jump on Amazon, get that book ordered right now, join the book club, and we'll see you guys all at the top. Bye, everybody.